Mr. Nolen. Good to see you again. Welcome back. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions about the 737 MAX and some of the safety remediation that's been done, and maybe what the agency has learned in response to it. So, just to recap here, my understanding, and please correct this if this is wrong. My understanding is of course you have 737 MAX, which was developed on the existing Boeing 737 platform. They developed a couple of larger aircraft engines, and the basic idea was that the aircraft engines, while they would make the plane more efficient and maybe a better modern flight, a better modern plane, that one of the issues, it might actually increase the angle of attack such that you would increase the risk of stalling. And so they installed various hardware and software devices to sort of, level off the plane if it reached a risk of stalling. Unfortunately, the manual override on some of those automatic stabilizers that would prevent the plane from climbing too quickly failed to be properly overridden, or maybe the pilots didn't have proper training for the new avionics. And so you had a couple of pretty catastrophic incidents, and of course we're all worried about that. I know you are, and certainly I am too, and we want to make sure that doesn't happen here in the United States. I guess just sort of a threshold question, is that basically right? Is that sort of summation of where we are with the 737 MAX? Is that correct?
I think you've captured it well,
okay.
Senator Vance, yes.
So maybe explain to me, my understanding is that as of about 2020, with some additional pilot training requirements, you guys effectively reauthorized the 737 MAX for flight in the United States in 2020. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So one worry that I have, and we've had a couple of incidents that have come to our attention in our office that I just wanted to highlight here. If we could, so I would just point your attention here, and if you can't read it, I'm happy to read it. But so the first is an American Airlines flight, January 20th, coming from Miami. This is a very new Boeing 737 MAX, and the flight is American 2692, pan. Due to a control failure with our stabilizer trim, we'd like to remain at 7,000 while we work some issues. Do you know what pan is?
I do.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So sort of, it's a non-emergent sort of call for help. Okay.
That's correct.
So that was an American flight in January 20th, and that's just a couple of months ago. And then this is the February 24th flight, 2023, Phoenix, Arizona. I may be especially worried about this because my own family has flown on a 737 at Southwest out of Phoenix, Arizona before. But Southwest 9017, we need to turn back towards Phoenix, and we're going to declare an emergency. We just declared, just because it's a brand new airplane and the autopilot the trim system is not working on the aircraft. It's not trimming at all, so we're having to do manual trimming. When I look at that with relatively new aircraft, I guess my automatic reaction is the 737 MAX actually safe? Have we done the necessary work here? Do you feel confident that we're actually in a position here where we can say the 737 MAX is doing what it needs to do in light of the fact that we have some pretty recent safety complaints here?
Yes, sir, I can. I can say categorically that the 737 MAX airplane is safe.
Okay. So maybe try to square the circle for me a little bit here, because you say that it's safe, and I certainly would like to believe you, and I certainly know the agency has done a lot of work to ensure its safety. Why are we still having pilots express some concerns about very new off-the-line 737 MAXs if the FAA thinks that these things have been brought up to speed?
Thank you for the question, Senator Vance. What I would say, without knowing the specifics of this particular flight or in the aftermath, what may have been the finding from aircraft maintenance at these two carriers, I'd want to know more about in the individual case. Without getting too technical, within a quick reference guide, you have different sort of indications, different things that might happen in flight in which crews are trained and prepared to deal with, as they did in both of these cases. I would not want to speak out of turn without knowing more about these two individual cases. What I can tell you is that we're working very closely as we go through the certification of the MAX 7 and the MAX 10, and we are using active pilots of different, degrees of experience, if you will, to make sure that our assumptions are correct about any new and novel system. recognizing that there are things on an airplane that have always been there, like stabilizer trim, like other things.
Sure.
And provisions for something if you get a malfunction of that sort.
Sure. So let me just make a couple quick final comments because I know I'm out of time here. One, just a request, Mr. Nolen, and I'd love for you to maybe sort of look into this in some detail and try to understand a little bit. I understand planes have problems. Most of the time, thank God, they're not catastrophic. But I'd like to have maybe a little bit more reassurance that we're not doing something with the 737 MAX, that we don't see elevated rates of pilot-initiated concerns or pilot-initiated emergencies, the sort of things that cause a plane to fly back home or, God forbid, something worse down the road. I think that the second observation, the second thing I want to say is just an observation here, Mr. Nolen. So, you obviously know your stuff, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate your forthrightness in responding to these questions. I will note that we have a nominee in front of us to replace you as the FAA administrator, and that person has shown not nearly the level of faculty with basic airline and aviation knowledge, and I think that should raise some concerns, especially given how important this industry is to public safety. So with that, thank you for your time, Mr. Nolen. Appreciate it.